This week we received the first development live stream of this year 2025. This was a very eagerly awaited development update from the Microsoft and the Sobo team after the disastrous launch of the new 2024 sim. We've got you covered with all the important highlights, including Sim Update 1, Sim Update 2, World Update, Famous Flyer number 11, which will be free for all flight simmers. So let's jump straight into the video. A quick disclaimer, we normally cover these videos including weekly announcements and release news from all the third-party developers in our update videos. However, being the first development live stream of the year since the release of the new sim, we thought it was best to cover the development live stream in full, and we'll have all the news and updates of the third-party developer news in our next video. Before we jump into the nuts and bolts, here's a quick word from our video sponsor. The Flight Sim mod store creates high quality flight sim modifications and add-ons for your flight sim home setup. They have some of the best add-ons to solve your flight sim problems and further enhance your flight sim experience. Built by flight sim enthusiasts with a passion for flight sim with a real-world pilot background and 3D design. You can check out their store in the links in the description below. And for Oz Flight Simmer viewers, you can use code AFS10 to receive a 10% discount on all Flight Sim Mods products. And we thank Flight Sim Mods for sponsoring this video. Kicking off with the development live stream with Jorg, the CEO of Flight Sim, had some data of the user base regarding who has been using the 2020 and the 2024 sim since the release of 2024. Jorg mentioned in the past 3 months that 2/3 of the user base has been using the 2024 sim and 1/3 have been using the 2020 sim. And in 2024, there's been more users simming in the career mode rather than free flight mode. This data could be a little skewed in my opinion, as many airliners and VR simmers are still using Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 as their main sim due to the state of 2024. Jorg also mentioned they have seen an increase of 1.3 to 1.4 new users in the franchise since the launch of the new sim, and they also have a new record when it comes to the franchise for the most monthly active users. Jorg went on to discuss the bad launch when it comes to the release of the 2024 sim, and the team has had some internal discussions about how to improve and make sure these issues that they've had with the release will never happen again. Jorg was talking about a large number of users who could not use the sim for the first few weeks due to the CBM and server issues. Jorg also addressed with the release there's still currently too many bugs with Microsoft Flight Simulator 24, which is stopping users from having a great experience with this new sim. Bugs were an ongoing theme when it came to this development live stream. During the internal testing, he mentioned for 2024 there was 50,000 bugs reported, and before the sim was shipped for launch, only 32,000 bugs were resolved. That leaves with my bad math calculations, there was 18 unresolved bugs. Jorg also admitted that the sim was released with way too many bugs. In retrospect, the team mentioned when they release the next sim, which means they are alluding to they may release a 2028 sim, they will never release a new sim or a big update without a beta period, including alpha and beta testing. As a consequence, the sim updates will also release slowly to ensure a stable release to improve the user experience when it comes to 2024. The current Sim Update 1 pre-release has about 22,000 users using it, and the Microsoft and Sobo team have fixed hundreds of bugs in this update, many of which haven't been added to the changelog just yet. Sim Update 1 and the in-sim marketplace for 2024 are planned to release on the 18th of February. Moving on to the updated feedback snapshot, which was released for the development live stream, where the team discussed the majority of the major bugs and issues in more depth. In this video, we will only highlight some of the major ones that I think is really some of the blockers when it comes to 2024. RAM and VRAM optimization. The current state of the sim, users are experiencing excessive memory allocations, which is leading to stutters and performance drops when the VRAM is overcommitting. Microsoft mentions work is underway to reduce the memory footprint when it comes to aircraft, airports, and textures, and by doing this, they are planning on not dropping any of the sim's visual quality. Simmers using the Sim Update 1 pre-release would have some experience of improvements when it comes to this already. However, there'll be more updates rolled out with incremental sim updates going forward. The Microsoft team also addressed the performance issues when it comes to the Xbox side of things. The development team is currently addressing fragmentation, which can lead to blurry textures and reduced performance, which then leads to crashes to desktop. The Microsoft team mentions in the meantime, to prevent the crashing, because this is a work in progress, they do have a way of fixing it, but it needs to go through testing and whatnot. Rather than using the quick resume feature on the Xbox console, they should completely exit the sim, and that way the sim completely loads up from scratch next time you enter the sim. Microsoft is also exploring additional optimizations for Xbox, including improve memory management and also improve on the already dynamic adjustments to prevent crashing. These updates are expected to roll out over Sim Update 1 and Sim Update 2. Rolling cache and downloading content was also spoken about in the development live stream. Asobo recommended increasing the cache size when possible to improve texture quality and the streaming experience. 16 gigabytes is the default, but expanding to 32 and 64 will do a great job, and even more can help reduce the bandwidth usage and improve performance by storing more data locally. It was recommended that 32 should be good, but 64 and above would be even better. The team went on and continued to talk about the dedicated download feature. This is something that the Microsoft team says it is in development and will come in a future update. This will allow users to pre-download regions and assets to avoid relying on streaming. There is no ETA when this feature will be implemented. The team went on through and looked at a bunch of smaller bugs on the bug list when it comes to the feedback snapshot. Majority of these bugs were either being fixed in the flighting and haven't been included in the change log for Sim Update 1, but they will on release, and or they're currently being looked at when it comes to Sim Update 2. From the sounds of it, the development team have already finished working on Sim Update 1 and really only fixing what's popping up with the flighting, and the team is hard at work developing Sim Update 2. Moving on from what was on the feedback bug list, the question was asked by the community in the community questions: we will see DLSS4 plan to be updated to be in the native sim. The team at Microsoft mentioned this is being worked on currently, and we should see that happen with Sim Update 2. When it comes to VR, we've really only seen a couple of small bug fixes in Sim Update 1. Sim Update 2 is where the team is planning on delivering the main bug issues to be fixed when it comes to VR. Seeing some smaller bugs again that I mentioned with Sim Update 1. However, the bigger ones they mentioned need to be tested with the testing team for Sim Update 2. That's why we're not seeing them for a little bit, because they are a bit more of a core coding that needs to be done, which means testing. Jorg also mentions they plan on releasing 4 Sim Updates a year, the first one being Sim Update 1 and then Sim Update 2, which they're aiming to release at the end of April. And he also mentioned Sim Update 3, which they aim to have at the end of June. They also mentioned they plan to have like a bit of pre-release on show at this year's Flight Sim Expo. From the sounds of it, Sim Update 2 is going to be a lot larger than Sim Update 1, and we probably won't see any new feature updates until at least Sim Update 3. I'm assuming that from the way that Jorg spoke about on the development live stream, and also they are planning to showcase some stuff when it comes to Flight Sim Expo. And knowing Jorg, he always likes to show some new content at some of these big shows or events, so I'm thinking we'll see some stuff there. Moving on to news when it comes to the in-sim marketplace for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. It's scheduled to release on February the 18th. However, Jorg wasn't too convinced that this would be happening. They are still smashing bugs and fixing issues. He mentioned that the team has working hard and that the in-sim marketplace for 2024 is very complicated because there is a lot of scenarios that happen. But from the looks of what he said, it's very fluid at the moment, and I'm not too confident from his body language that we will see this release on February the 18th, but that's what it's slated for at the moment. The Brazil World Update is scheduled for later on in March, and the date is fluid at this point as the team can't deliver world updates for pretty much anything until the in-sim marketplace is released, as that is how they deliver the world updates. Jorg mentioned that they weren't going into too much further detail about new content at the moment, so they really didn't elaborate on too much further than the Brazil World Update, as at the moment they are more focused on fixing the core sim bugs and bringing up the user experience. There will be fewer local legend aircraft in 2024, as Jorg mentions. In some of the regions that they have planned for future World Update releases, there is no real world aircraft history from local aircraft manufacturers. In the past, they were really pushing out aircraft because the fact that they were releasing a world update, so they're not going to do that this time around. Hopefully this means less local legends will be a release of higher quality local legends than what we have seen in the past 2 years, because they've released some shockers in my opinion. Now, speaking of local legends, we have famous flyers, and the first Make It Good aircraft, plane number 1, which will be one out of the 4 free aircraft, which is going to be the Cessna 185F, which is the Skywagon, and it's created by Carinata. This should be available sometime in February, and the team showed a trailer which I'm including here, and assuming the release date for this one will be fluid as well, because I don't think they can release this until they have the in-sim marketplace release. So during the development live stream, the team answered a bunch more community questions. I haven't really included all of them here, only the highlights due to keeping the video at a reasonable length, but to the credit of the server and the Microsoft team, they did try to explain in length of these questions when it comes to things like server updates, ATC updates, and they went into more of VR updates as well. I'll leave a link in the description below if you wanted to check out the full 2-hour live stream. However, we've only covered the main highlights in dot points, and I really only scratched the surface and just sort of picked the few that I thought was interesting from the comments and questions we get in our videos. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you are a flight sim enthusiast, and I'm sure we'll have some videos out in the future that will interest you if this one didn't totally tickle your fancy. We'll be back in a few days with a regular third-party developer updates, and a big thank you to Flight Sim Mods for sponsoring this video, and we'll see you on a stream or a video real soon.